Yeah, this is Insular State. G'day, it's Mark from Failurist here. This is Insular State, and basically, it's about our relationship with the digital age and also how failure plays a role, that failure narrative in the digital age as well. Um, it's brought about more connectivity but left us more isolated. And we're actually becoming a collective of insular states. So that's the premise of today's chat. Now, I'm not going to lie, when it comes to um, becoming cocooned into a digital blanket, I have been waiting for this my entire life. I love it. I used to get lost in the world of TV, and I'm not even talking about like the flat screen TVs. I'm talking about the old black and white TVs, the uh, 12 inch. Actually, let's not go 12 inch. Let's go with 15-inch TVs. Uh, and you had to get the aerial just right in order to sort of get pay dirt. Three channels, four channels, sorry. Five channels. SBS, I forgot SBS. But, there were programs like It's a Knockout and Benson, Webster, American Hero. I could keep going on and on and on. But I used to just get lost in that world. And yeah, and then came the mobile age, and we had our phones, and downloading TV. I never forget once I missed my bus stop because I was watching The Killing on my tablet, and you just lose yourself. You'd lose time, and it was everywhere as well. You could watch it wherever you were. Amazing. And then came the streaming age, and you know, no planning required. It's whatever you want, as much as you want, when you want it, whatever. Social media, TV, movies, Netflix, it was all there whenever you need it. But then you would look up and you would feel truly lost. When it came to social media, primarily Facebook back in the day, um, but it's also relative to all the Twitters and everything like that. I was a consumer, like avid consumer. Wasn't a poster, but I would consume with abandon, and I don't know if it's called lurking, but yeah, that's probably what I was doing. I think now it's called doom scrolling. I think that's sort of a nice term for it. Um, and I do this endlessly, and the problem with scrolling in social media in particular is, I don't know if you've noticed, but everybody is awesome. Everybody is doing this and that. Oh, and it's amazing. And, love unrequited. And, this is to my soulmate, blah, blah, blah. Um, and I'm not going to lie, this is a safe space. I became, had the green eyes of jealousy upon me. And whenever you're not doing so well and you see people that are doing better or doing awesome, and everybody's doing awesome, you kind of feel like that troll under the bridge. But the fascinating thing about that is when you actually scratch beneath the surface, they curate the conversation to what it is. It's, if they lost their luggage on the trip, that doesn't get mentioned. It's just about the blue water, blue sky, the sand, nothing about the luggage or nothing about the fight they had prior to, or, they might have had a sort of barnstorming fight and then it was love eternal. And that's all the narrative is, um, you know, and I think, you know, that doesn't, if you were to talk about real life, and I can tell you from, doing this for a little bit, it doesn't get the likes. I get it. Um, you know, because we don't necessarily want authenticity. What we want is what an aspirational life should look like. And I think that's where the algorithm sort of rewards that everything is awesome mentality. Um, so I think that's a thing. I need to admit that consuming that kind of content was not doing me any favors. In fact, if you're in that failurist mindset, or that failure mindset, I should say, um, it becomes quite toxic. Seeing everything that, and that jealousy is there, it's real. Um, and then you start to get resentful. And so for me, I really had to take stock of what I was doing and note that, the more I was feeding or consuming that type of content, the worse I was getting. And I had to walk away. Like, I decided, yeah, it wasn't for me. And, I walked away from social media. I still got accounts, but I sort of don't really furnish them. But YouTube opened its arms, and I walked straight into the arms of YouTube. Now, my consumption habits, they're not as bad as what they were, but they're not great. You know, consuming something, you the house always wins. It's like casinos. Um, you may do well for a couple of days, and then you scrolling shorts, and an hour goes by. You're like, where did that time go? Um, it might not be um, friends and family and distant relations, but it's still something where you're sort of doing this mindless task. And I think I've sort of touched on it, but that's sort of where failure comes in. If you're fed a certain narrative on how life should be, that everything is awesome, you really do feel that exception to the norm, and it does become disproportionate, that response within. Um, and if it's disproportionate, uh, you're telling yourself something that isn't true. Like, let's just say failure is a lifestyle, not an event. Now, that's not true. Failure is just an event. But if everybody is succeeding and you're the only one failing, you tell yourself something different. Um, and that's, what I got. And that's how it got to a stage where I really had to look at myself in the mirror and go, I'm okay. I'm doing okay. Not great, but, these are just the collective of events. It's not a lifestyle. Um, but that's the concern with failure in the sort of digital age, is that it does become disproportionate. And the more that we're isolating, and you can look at the statistics on people going out, and I think in Germany, nightclubs have fell by about 40%, which is significant. And that's fine if, when you're looking at things like alcohol consumption and stuff like that. But if we're not socializing, we're being cocooned in our own sort of insular state, and we're getting fed the algorithm, which is that everything should be awesome. And when it's not, it's a real concern, because people have that disproportionate response. Yeah. So, I failed last week, and I acknowledged that I failed previous to last week, and I saw Jesus, saw the light. And now all my videos will say, please like and subscribe, because that's what I have to do. So YouTube algorithm, that's what I did. I'm a man of my word. Please like and subscribe. Um, but, how do we change this? Do we just get rid of all technology? Get rid of the phones, get rid of the streaming? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think that's, you wouldn't, my phone's right here. You can't, you know, you're not going to sort of take that from me. Um, but I think we need to change the narrative. I think that's how we solve it. You see this in corporate life, and it's starting to come in, where authenticity is what's desired. A lot of the big companies, Atlassian and that, they are leading by example, where your vulnerability is your super strength. And I think, that we need to push for that narrative within social media, that it's okay to be not okay. Um, you know, and only the collective can solve that. It can't be an individual. And it won't be overnight. It might take time, but the more we sort of normalize failure, the more it's accepted. But the more that we learn, and the more that we grow, and the more that we grow, the more we succeed. So I think that's what it is. I think it's, changing the narrative. It's also about being a good neighbor, but I'm not tackling that one. My neighbors don't know my name, so you know, let's change the narrative first, and then we'll talk about community and all of that comes with it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this has been Insular State, and yeah, if this is the last word you hear from me, I just want you to know you are engineered for greatness. But only you can define the definition of greatness. Okay, and it could be something very simple to others, but if it's a mountain that you've climbed, then you are great. And this week, there's not going to be a trade proposal. There's not going to be an on sell. If you're failed or failing, send an email to the@failurist.com. I'm not a therapist. I'm just the expert on failure. And what you'll simply get is an acknowledgement that, it's going to be okay, and a reminder that you are awesome. Nothing on sold, but that's literally what you'll get. Okay. So if this is the last time we speak, just remember that you're engineered for greatness. In arrivederci.